Welcome to the Way Forward Ignite Within podcast. Here with a good friend. We've had some great conversations before. Looking forward to chatting with you. It's crazy that we're now here, 2024, 8 days into the new year.
Mm-hmm.
How are you feeling about that? How are you feeling about the new year?
Uh, it's interesting because I had quite interesting last year. A lot of changes, a lot of developments in my life. I feel like I've kind of become a more productive person as well as a more individualized and self-respecting person. But going into 2024, I had some concerns about this first year and about 2 to 3 years past that. But of course, this is just buzz from the collective, right? The masses and the media and the machines that are telling us what to watch, the algorithms, influencing your mind. So I'm not really sure how much of my concerns are directly from me and my immediate concerns about my personal future, and how much is just the outside noise kind of influencing my thought and my outlook on the world.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that. I feel like that's probably is like the biggest thing with this year, the outside noise. Like the amount of noise that's coming from social media and just like everything around us, all these rumors, things that can't even confirm anymore. You don't know if something recorded is even real at this point. So it's like, how can we stay focused? How can we stay focused on ourselves and what is in our locus of control and stuff like that? I feel like that's like the key to being able to have a good year this year.
Absolutely. And a good relationship with yourself and those around you. I find what works for me best is just slowing down. Like slow down the scrolling, slow down your daily routines, slow down how you speak, how you read, how you do things. Because when you slow things down, you're able to narrow your focus into this really tiny point. And from there, you can get a lot more work done. You can be a lot more coherent. You can be more aware of yourself, how you respond to things, and your relationship with others. So that's how I do it, man. Slow things down, analyze, reflect, observe, and that's what I do.
Yes. Let's talk about that because like right now, this time of the year, everybody is like extra motivated, extra, just energy everywhere. If you were to look back, say like 3 years ago or something like that, versus now, like, is there anything that you've learned personally in terms of productivity? Because I know that you've, accomplished a lot yourself and stuff like that. Is there anything that you've done personally that helps you to stay focused?
So on the first part, I actually disagree that this year, this energy is more, out there, go-getter, productive. I mean, maybe in our circle, yes. But from what I see, when I look at, the masses of people, when I go to the gym early in July, there's not many people there. And when I go to the coffee shop or I walk around the streets, people kind of have this apathy to them, this slowness of pace and this lack of awareness. Typically, they're absorbed in their phone or they have headphones in. And I'm just seeing this look of desperation in people. So maybe it's just me, but for what I do when it comes to productivity, recently, I found that writing helps me a lot. This goes back to what I said about slowing things down. Writing, the deliberate action of moving the pen and making your thoughts real in a way, right? Because your thoughts are immaterial, they're not real. They're just thoughts, they're in your mind. But when you write them down, you literally put them onto the point of a pen or a pencil and finally, detailedly, intricately design your thoughts. That's how I say it. And I find it very conducive to not only personal growth, but productive goals and self-awareness in general.
No, I definitely agree with that. Yeah, journaling, like I journal, and a heavy part of that is I write out certain tasks that I want to do, and I do this on multiple layers. I write out weekly targets that are based on 6-month goals, which are based on yearly goals, right? And then I do these daily targets that I write out in the journal, and then I also write it out on a whiteboard, so I have to check them off twice. And I then reflect on simply my emotions, and I'm able to look back and then actually consolidate information based on my emotional state, and I can compare it to how many tasks I was completing or what I was doing, what my focus was on. And I find that like the increase in awareness there is insane, right? And another thing that recently I've started doing that's made a insane difference is praying. And I don't care if you're someone that doesn't believe in God. I don't care if whatever. The simple idea behind prayer, if you can understand that, what you're doing there is you're actually bringing to awareness a higher sense of morality, which makes you aware of the things that you're doing wrong. It makes you aware of the things you're doing right. It makes you reflect on these things. I found that myself and many people, especially Christians, when they're doing a whole bunch of things that they know they shouldn't be doing, or they're avoiding the things that they know they're meant for, and they feel that emptiness, they feel that desperation. These people will consequently avoid the Bible. They'll avoid going to church. They'll avoid being in that relationship with God, right? And by praying, you are consistently bringing that higher awareness back in focus in your mind, and it actually just pretty much keeps you from being in that derp state where you're just floating along. It actually keeps you into a state where you're like, okay, what am I actually doing?
Right.
What's the impact?
And that goes hand in hand with your system of writing
Mm-hmm.
and goal setting and achieving and monitoring your emotional outlook based on your productivity. Because when you pray, it brings into awareness, like you said, like that higher level, that above and beyond. What do your prayers usually consist of in terms of like content? Are they
Mm.
affirmations? Are they praying for a specific person, for yourself, for protection, for love? What is it?
And so recently I've actually been using a book which has pre-written prayers uh, formed where basing they're taking different scriptures, right, and then combining them together into a prayer and kind of making it nice and poetic.
Mm.
But other than that, what I usually do, I like to just really focus a lot on gratitude. I find gratitude and petition, which is where you start with gratitude, what you're grateful for, and then you petition with God for what you want. And when I say what you want, it's not like material things. It's more so, maybe you're seeking guidance, or you're seeking clarity, or you're asking for strength. You're asking for more love in your heart, things
Mhm.
like that. Doing those usually is what I would do.
Okay, yeah. The gratitude exercise, that reminds me. I also used to do a lot of gratitude journaling. I've fallen off in the past couple of weeks with, vacationing and stuff, but I've done it mentally. It's
Mm,
like consciously, I would do my same writing exercise, but in my mind. If there wasn't a notebook around or if I didn't have a pen, I would go through three things that are important in the moment, three things that I'm grateful for. It could be
mm,
food, it could be shelter, it could be the people I'm with, it could be, my health, whatever it may be. Three things that I find very hopeful or am grateful for. I followed that up with a a plan for how am I going to make my day better for others, or how am I going to make other people's day better? Like, what am I going to give back to people?
mm.
Am I going to pay them back with positivity, a compliments? Am I going to do something nice or say something nice for others? And then from there, I just write notes down and other ideas on how I can be more grateful for what I have in the moments and throughout the day.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that. Yes, it's crazy because I think, I think there's a time and a place. Like, I think there's a certain time where actually maybe it's okay to not be grateful and it's actually beneficial. But I think like this gratitude thing gets thrown around so much that people don't realize how powerful it
Hmm.
actually is and how layered it is. The gratitude, bringing it to your awareness, that's the key part. You're bringing it into consciousness, right? In doing that, it grounds you and it prevents you from getting into a place where you are not living. Like, we're all alive, but many people aren't living, right? And when you put yourself in context by noticing anything around you, like if I notice the walls here, I notice the way my feet feel in my shoes right now. These types of things, they put you in context and they prevent you from being out of consciousness where you're just floating through. And that's like the biggest thing that causes so many issues. And I like how what you're saying is taking the gratitude and then actually turning that into what you can do for other people, right? Because that's the core foundation of compassion, right? And something that is another buzzword people keep talking about, especially like the last 2 years, is narcissism. And I feel like so many people saying that word have like zero clue what it means.
Yeah, they've almost delegitimized it as something to be taken seriously, right? Like,
Yeah,
in fact, they
essentially,
brag
yeah.
about it
They,
even.
they, it's a really important
Yeah.
like psychological concept too, and yeah, it's pretty much been ruined to where like it's hard to even talk about it. Yeah, I really do like that because what you're talking about is the complete opposite of narcissism, and the way I see it, narcissism is the single cause of every single evil in the world and of every single problem in all of our lives individually. So as long as you can do something that brings your consciousness up, brings you more into compassion, you're pretty much good. But maybe it's not that simple for everyone. Maybe you're
No, because when
yeah.
you encounter, an actual narcissist, then they will just exploit you and tear you to shreds if you're compassionate to them.
Yeah.
And that's where awareness comes back in, right? You have to
Mm.
know who you're dealing with, who is around you, what they mean to you, what are their characteristics, what are their flaws, weaknesses, strengths, and gratitude will show you that. Yeah,
Mm.
it will.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, and that's another thing. Like, when you focus on what you're grateful for, it it actually attunes your RAS.
Mhm.
You know what that is?
Reticular activating
Yes.
system. Yeah.
It attunes your RAS to the things you're grateful for,
Mhm.
and it actually it pretty much puts you into an echo chamber that you want to be in. It
Mhm.
puts you into this reality where that's all there is things to be grateful for.
Yeah.
And another thing that's really interesting about this is right now, I feel like maybe it's worse than ever. The epidemic of people, I just want to be happy. People just wanting to be happy, right? And what's interesting is that there's a polarity, right? There's a polarity with everything. And with happiness, it's like, at what point when you're going down the spectrum of, you know, extreme happiness, like imagine the most extreme jubilation,
Yeah.
and then imagine like you're just
Hysteria.
slightly happy.
Uh huh.
At what point does it not become happiness, right? There's this polarity. And what's interesting is that the happiest people are people who have lowered the baseline. So if you're able to be happy while you're freezing cold in the winter,
I know I
you're
am.
running 10 miles
Yeah.
freezing cold in the tundra, you're starving and you're able to be happy there, imagine how good it feels when everything's great. But imagine if you have a really high baseline. Everything has to be perfect. People have to be worshiping you.
Mhm.
Everyone has to love you. If one person doesn't like you, your day's ruined. Now,
I need to buy
you're
more
never happy.
products.
And that right
Yeah.
there is real narcissism. It's just
Mm.
insecurity where when things are not perfect in the conditions that you need in order to be happy, everything sucks.
Hmm.
Everything sucks. And yeah, that's why, yeah, the gratitude, bringing that focus in, it helps you with
Appreciation.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the only like, because when you're running, I've been running recently, right? And it's hard because I haven't run for a while, getting back into it. And when you're running, it'd be pretty easy to just sit there and be like, "Oh, this sucks." But like, there's honestly so much to be grateful for. I didn't run for a while because I was injured and I couldn't run for a while.
Hmm.
And now I'm running again, right? So many people aren't running. So many people can't run. I'm running. I'm sitting there, like I'm running in a nice neighborhood. I got nice shoes on my feet. I'm improving every day. It's like there's so much beautiful there. And then when I'm not running and I'm eating a nice meal and I'm sitting in a warm environment, it feels so much better because I went and I did something hard. You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you mean. I think most people's perception when it comes to things like exercising or self development or improving is that they focus on a sort of goal instead of the process. The process is always more important than the goal. You will not feel fulfillment or happiness by achieving the goal. That's not how it works. You achieve happiness and fulfillment by progressing toward the goal,
Mm,
not reaching it. That's why you always have to set higher goals, higher aspirations, and focus on the process. That's what
Mm-hmm.
matters the most, day after
Yeah.
day.
Yeah. And the reason why is because when you're in that process, like that's life. Like that's what you were born for. There's a purpose in you that you're aware of. Every single person is aware of, whether they know it or not. It's there. If you were able to actually have some introspection, get to know yourself within, right? And it's I don't even know.
I think I know what you mean. Everyone has gifts they can share because humans are quite variable. We have lots of interesting, unique characteristics. All of us do. Yes, there's patterns. Yes, people act the same way and sometimes, but I think deep down, we all truly have gifts we can share with each other and the world. The hard part is coming to realization of those gifts, overcoming limitations, and then sharing those gifts before you leave, right before you finish your life.
Mm,
I want to go back to the topic of living for a minute. You said that people who are not really appreciating life are not really living.
mm,
This does kind of seem like the phenomena recently because a lot of people are just in this haze. They're
mm.
just in this slumber that they
Yeah.
can't really wake up from. They have addictions, they have way too many problems, they have way too much tension in their
Mm,
life. They've just lost connection with their identity. In fact, some of them don't even have identities. And so they're
yeah.
reliant on the external world to shape them and mold them in a way that would make them, I don't know, happier?
Mm,
Not how it works.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's definitely the issue. It's definitely the issue. Yeah. It's like how you said, you got to slow down. Yeah. I feel like everything has sped up so much. Like we were talking the other day about TikTok, right? I was comparing it to old YouTube. I was on the OG YouTube. I still remember it vividly. And then I see TikTok and I'm like, this reminds me of OG YouTube a bit, just the way it sucks you in, it keeps you on there. Oh, you like this video? Watch this one. Watch this one. Watch this one. But TikTok is so much faster. It's just boom, 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 hit after hit. And then you have Twitter, right? Same concept. And then it's just everything
X.
is like this.
Right.
The everything is so fast now. Like before, there used to be like a monoculture that
Mm.
people shared. There was a TV.
Bro, before you have to read a book,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
you had
Word
to
by
read,
word.
yeah,
Yeah.
word by word. And there was a monoculture where there are certain celebrities that everybody knew.
Yep.
Whatever music was popular, everybody listened to it.
Mm.
Like, you know, I wasn't really there for that time, but I know that there was a time like Bob Marley, for example, right? Like that was like a thing. Michael Jackson. Now it's not even like that. Like artists just come and go. We all listen to different stuff. Everything is just like just going so fast. The only way to be able to not get overwhelmed and just get overwhelmed and just zapped out of life essentially is to slow down,
Mhm.
right? So yeah, I like that.
I say that being a proponent of speeding. No, I mean, I drive the speed limit all the time, of course. Never speed,
Mm,
ladies and gentlemen. At least not without a seatbelt.
mm,
No, but we were also having an interesting conversation about death the other day,
mm,
and I'm just gonna put it out there. Do you think that suicide is wrong? Yes or
mm.
no?
I think that yes, it is inherently
Mm.
wrong because well, I I believe in God and I believe that ultimately um our ultimate purpose is to be united as one in the end and that life is beautiful, right? And that there's a reason why we're living. So I think that it is wrong to kill yourself. But with that being said, I think that so many people never even think about death.
Right.
They
That was
never,
my
they
next
never,
question, right? Do you contemplate death?
yeah, I,
Mm.
I absolutely do. I absolutely do. And it's interesting because I was in church. I was in church a few weeks ago when we were having a conversation about death. And there was kind of this question. It was like, how often do you think about death? And I was saying, I think about it very often. And so many people were like, what? Like, you think about
Mhm.
it that much? Like, I've never thought about it.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, I guess that's right. I'm like, you should think about it. How can you not? It's like you're not even, like I said, you're not putting yourself in context. Death is there.
Hmm. It's inevitability, like plain and simple. You start your life and your life ends.
Mm.
It's,
And
yeah.
that's a big reason why a lot of people have no sense of a higher sense of morality or a deeper sense of spirituality because they've never thought about death.
Hmm.
Think about death, and it's like
Interesting.
you have to think about something beyond just, oh, what's the next Netflix show?
Hmm.
Whoa, this new restaurant. Let's go eat let's go eat this food.
What am I gonna do at work tomorrow?
Yeah.
Hmm.
What am I gonna do at work tomorrow just so that I can eat the food and watch the Netflix, but like nothing beyond that? Only way you can be like that is because you didn't think about death and consider that, what's even happening here? Like, what are we doing right now? What the heck is this?
It's very interesting because I think that society now, Western society, the U.S. particularly, has become so far removed from the idea of death itself. Right?
Mm,
We hardly ever see it. In fact, it pains
yeah.
us to even look at elderly people
Yeah, it's like
because,
taboo. It's like
yeah,
taboo
yeah,
to talk about it.
and it's like morbid and dark and oh, death. No, we can't talk about
Mm,
that. It's like, no, I don't want to contemplate that. That is a very poor attitude, I find. And I also find that the same people who avoid contemplating death are some of the most, I don't want to say lazy, but they're comfortable people. People who just want to be comforted and happy and, you know, con- concerned with the minute details of life. Never something greater, never something beyond themselves and this
mm,
moment.
beyond themselves,
Yeah,
narcissism. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's that fear. There's the fear of death that makes people avoid taking risk, which is an inherent part of life. Listen, I have a cat, right? And my cat, he will go walk up on these ledges. He my cat, I would let him go outside, right? And he'll just go out like trying to chase down some animals and hunt them for absolutely no
Hmm.
reason. Has food that he loves, right? He's jumping off of trees and stuff, doing crazy stuff. He's out there taking a risk, and why is he doing it? Because he loves it. It's in his nature. It's in his nature to go out and be a cat, do what's encoded in him, right? Encoded in his spirit,
Hmm.
right? And yeah, that's the whole shebang right
There's so
there.
much strength to be found in like living on that edge and being aware of death. I mean, you felt it. Thrill, risk, danger, threats. Like it gives you. There was a saying, I'm not sure where it's from, but it was risk and danger gives a flavor to life that the sheltered will never know.
Mm,
That's so true.
yeah.
Like once you get the taste of risk, of danger, of excitement, of thrill, then you have a totally different outlook on life. And some people just won't ever understand that. They
Mm,
would much rather be comfortable, safe, and satiated,
mm,
fed, sheltered, clothed. There's more to life. There's way more to life than just surviving, thriving, risking. That is where you find the flavor of life.
mm. Yeah. Yeah. It makes me want to go back to what you asked earlier, right? Like once again, I clearly think that suicide is completely wrong. I think that it would be stupid to actually do that because life is actually amazing, right? But with that being said, I think that it goes back to the same idea of, you know, thinking about death. It's like I feel like a good a good kind of perspective is like I think this is kind of like Albert Camus'
Mm-hmm.
philosophy. It's like why are you not committing suicide?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like what's the reason not to, right? And I see this because like I personally try really hard to reach people. This is something I'm called to do. I'm really called to reach people and try to help them live a more fulfilled life. And that's like why I created the Ignite Within brand in the first place. Like that's like the whole concept. And it's like I a lot of people, you know, they just eyes glazed over. You tell them, yo, you could do these things you want to do. You ask them, what do you want to do? You could do that. They're like, oh, no, I can't. I can't. And it's like, what are you afraid of? Your life sucks. You're not living a life you want. Every day you're miserable. You say you just want to be happy. And I'm telling you, you can be happy today. And then you're resisting it. Like, it's your life, you know?
If you put yourself in their shoes in a way to say, right? I think you would also find that message hard to hear.
Mm,
What I like to tell
yeah.
people when they have miserable lives, it's not that their life itself is miserable, it's that the conditions they are in is giving them these signals. I call them signals:
Mm,
anxiety, depression, doubts, like debilitating neuroses, which by that I mean like negative emotions. These feelings are signals telling you you are not living the life you can be living.
mm,
You are not fulfilled. What you're doing is not working.
mm,
Change it. But people just think, oh no, I must have some sort of disorder. I will take some pills. And that's just the wrong way to go about it. There's signals. Your anxiety, your depression, your distaste or hate, or all these things are telling you that you are lacking in some area of your life. And you have to find where you're lacking and actualize.
mm,
Abraham Maslow, psychologist, talks about self actualization. He also has a quote that reads that if you plan on being anything less than you can be, you will probably be unhappy for the rest of your days.
mm,
And most people, they don't even have a plan for who they want to be. So they're terribly unhappy and miserable. So, like what you said, getting people to accept that they can do these things, it's a harsh wake up call.
mm.
And I
Yeah.
found very little success in trying to do it because
Yeah.
my message is also pretty, tough
Mm.
love, get to it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's why I kind of had to create a process. It's like a pretty long process that people kind of go through, but it's interesting because it's this long
Mm,
process, but it's all for something that's so simple. All they have to do is let go. You just release, right?
interesting.
And this is a good way to explain this,
Mm,
right? So everything that you do, everything that you actually do, you have to do it with intention. And if not, then you're just doing it unconsciously.
right.
You're just going with the whims of your emotions that you're not even aware of and stuff like that. An intention, right, to explain it is like this. If I have my hand open and I want to close it into a fist, and I sit there and have the desire, right now I'm thinking like I want to close it, right? Now I'm thinking like, yeah, I intend to close it. But when I actually take that intention and I actually connect it with my entire being and my mind and my heart and my soul, now my fist closes. That's how you release. Like anything that you want to give up, anything that you want to do, if you want to take your life, you say you want to be happy, just let go of the unhappiness
Hmm,
right now. Just
hmm.
full intention. But sounds simple, right?
Like
But
release
it's
it the
not.
same way you would close your hand or open your hand, right? That's how simple it can be.
Yeah,
Just
but
like,
it's but it's like to peel those layers back, and I understand it because for me, it's been like I've learned this from doing it myself. Like I went through the process, right? Like for example, um, I had a hard time just like really when I was younger, kind of resisting a lot of things that I was called to do. And I remember, for example, there was a time when I was in school and I was voted to give a speech
hmm,
in front of the whole school. I was like, I was trying not to get voted. I was like, okay, like let me not like do too well on like the one where they're gonna choose us.
right.
But they still were like, I had like a standing ovation. They chose me. I was like on the verge of crying. I was like, no, I
Hmm,
can't do this. It's another example. I was being cheered on to dance at a pep rally, right, in high school. Once again, I just like shut down, didn't want to do it. And it's like interesting looking back on that because now I do very bold things, right? And it's like there was a process and it didn't happen overnight, but it did. Like realistically, there was a time,
hmm.
but when it actually changed, there was a time where it was kind of instantaneous, but there was a process to
Right.
lead me up to being able to release, I guess. But it's
Yeah.
like thinking that you have to do something first prolongs it.
Hmm. Oh yeah, for sure.
So that's what I want to clarify. Is like there's a process, but stop thinking about it like that. When it comes to things that you want to do or improve upon, when you are sitting there thinking like maybe say you want to quit something and you're just like so particular about it. You're trying so hard, you're resisting it so hard.
Smoking or some kind of
It's
other
not going to
addiction.
work.
Yeah.
It's not going to work. Like you're just putting too much importance upon it and stuff like that, right? The moment you actually succeed in quitting it, it won't be hard. You already are enough without it. The reason why you even would consider quitting is because you realize that, like, oh, I'm better without this thing, but it's making me think that having it makes me feel good. But really,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is you're giving up, you want to give up, is making you feel bad, right? And that's why you're addicted to it. It as soon as you put that thing into your system, it makes you feel bad, and then the the comparison of what it feels like without it, it creates this kind of illusion that you're feeling better, but you're actually making yourself feel worse. And then the relief from the bad feeling it gives you is addictive. But get rid of it completely, and there's no trap. There's nothing like that. You're already complete, right? And that's kind of like the concept, you know?
Yeah, yeah. That must have taken some time to figure out. That's not something that comes easily to most people.
Mm,
To go back to your examples of doing something that you were, anxious about doing, a pattern I noticed is that fear was evident in both of those
yes.
cases. And I do think that someone said it that there's only two ways to motivate people, it's their self interest or fear. You scare them or you make it in their best interest to do something. And while I do think fear is a very strong motivator, it might be too strong for some people, right?
Mm,
It's like you didn't cave to fear, you didn't back down from it. But a lot of people living their, sheltered, secure lives are ones to be risk averse and to avoid anything that makes them fearful or
mm,
afraid. How do you overcome fears like that? Do you
yeah.
just put yourself in situations to where you constantly have to overcome fear, or what do you think that process looks
Mm.
like?
Yeah, so I can say that for me, man, like with those examples, let's just say dancing, right? I always loved dancing, but I was afraid to dance in front of people. Something that I did that helped was I was making dance videos and I uploaded them on the internet, right? That was very nerve-wracking for me,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't as scary as actually physically dancing in front of real people. But doing that kind of helped. I started to kind of gradually build up into it, but what really made the difference to where I was no longer afraid was once again kind of a release and a shift that's like instant. It's kind of a realization that I'm thinking about myself too much.
Mm.
Like am
Gotta
I
let go.
am I
Yeah,
really that
yeah.
important?
Mm.
What about maybe how much joy I'm bringing to people's life when I'm dancing? So this is something that I had kind of started thinking about maybe when I was 17 or 18. Um, Imagine you're walking around, there's a whole bunch of people, and you're smiling at people, and you feel great. You're genuinely smiling. But say, only 20% smile back, right? You're not going to be bothered they don't smile back. Like, the people that do smile back, it's really pleasant. And the people that don't smile back, it's like, I'm still smiling.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I'm dancing and maybe someone doesn't like it or someone judges me, I'm the one dancing. Like I'm the one enjoying life. I'm enjoying dancing
Mm-hmm.
and I'm also sharing it with the people that connect with it. So focus on that. And it's like maybe I still felt a bit nervous, right? But that nervousness, I started to see it more as excitement because I realized this is actually something I love doing. I've always loved it. And realistically, everyone loves dancing. Every single child dances, right?
Right.
And then they stop dancing for the same reason that I did, I guess. You start to think about yourself. You're afraid of what people are looking at you and thinking. So
Societal pressures,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like I'll say the biggest key is that shift, pretty much more towards compassion. But firstly, compassion for yourself, right? So you love dancing, right? Love yourself. You're allowed to do it. There's
Mm-hmm.
nothing you need to do first. You don't need to be perfect first. You don't need to have everyone like you first. Just dance. That's your birthright. And then from that compassion for yourself, take it out to other people. You're making other people feel joy. Maybe you're inspiring other people to
Yeah.
dance,
Inspire them to dance. Yeah.
right? So that's my answer to that.
Fascinating. Mm.
Yeah. What do you think about that? Do you have any examples of times you've overcome some fear?
I have to reflect a little bit more on that. Yeah, I'm not too used to fear because I am quite a calculated person.
Mm,
So if I do take risks, I understand like consequences and like, oh, what if this could happen? But I found that reflecting on like the what ifs and the risks of something, it just caused, anxiety and just this sort of sticky, gross feeling that I didn't want to bear.
Mm.
So I just relabeled it, which is kind of like a delusion, right? It's like a trick you could do to your mind.
Mm.
I'm not scared. I'm just, I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm nervously excited,
Yeah,
right?
but I think that's real, though.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's very real.
Mm,
I think that if anything, it's the thought that you're nervous or you're afraid is the actual delusion. You're
okay.
just coming back. That's what I'm
Hmm.
saying. You're coming back to who you really are.
Right.
You're letting go and coming back to who you really are. And
Uh,
that's the thing. People hold on to it. Like you're holding on to the negative. Why are you holding on to the addiction? Why are you holding on to the fear? Why are you holding on to the things that make your life worse? And that's kind of what I was saying earlier
hmm.
about kind of like the facing death thing and it being a bit harsh. Is like the reason why I say it in that way is because it's real. Like, you know, consider that harsh aspect and you'll start to realize it's like, why am I holding on to this? I my daily life I don't really like. I just want to escape it. I don't feel like I have any good relationships. I don't feel like am making an impact. It's like if that's the case, like why are you even doing that, right? But it's the reason why you should ask yourself that is because it should bring you to a realization that death is imminent. You are essentially like this life, it just goes by like that, right? If you were to talk to some old person that's nearing death, they would
Hmm.
tell you that,
Right.
yeah, it just kind of went by. And then what, right? So you were like a video game character, right? And in a video game, if you have a character, like when I was younger, I used to play World of Warcraft, right? And if you can level up in World of Warcraft, you can level up your character, you can do all these things, and it's so fun and enjoyable. And I loved it because that's what you're supposed to do in real life, right?
Hmm.
But if you do that in real life, it's like if you level up the character, you're not changing who you are. You're still the same person. You're the you're the architect leading this character, right? But you're always the same. You're always complete. And that's kind of like, you know, that's kind of one of the concepts, one of the ignite within type
That's
philosophies.
good. It reminds me a lot of the individuation symbols and process and goals. I think Carl Jung likened it to a nautilus, which is a type of seashell. It's like a spiral, and it starts very small, but then it expands. But it expands at this in this very beautiful pattern, right? And so the individual, the self, is the beginning of the spiral. And as they progress on life and they develop and find their authentic individual personality, it gets bigger.
Mm,
Yeah, fascinating.
yep. Yeah, man. I think that that's the key, man. Like for everyone, it's really returning to yourself, right? And that's deep. It's deep.
A lot of people, they've lost it, man. I don't know,
Yeah.
man. I look around at people and they're so distracted
Yeah.
and they're so anxious and overly concerned about shit that just doesn't matter. And it drives me crazy. I'm like, your life is miserable. Why are you concerned about this?
Yeah. And it's like your life is miserable, but it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
You were
Yeah.
born with the birthright to have a great life. You were born with love inherently interwoven into your spirit. And, you're sitting there clinging on to misery for no reason. Like, if you're going to be miserable, maybe put it to good use or something. Like, go have a mission that actually does something, has an impact on the world in some way. Even like, no matter what the impact was, that would be more fulfilling than just kind of just floating through the one life you get. And that's at least
we're
what I
we're
think.
we're kind of avoiding like blatant critiques on how we've organized and structured our society
Mm,
because it is the fact that we live in this system in these interweaving industries and systems that is why people's lives are like this, and we're not
yeah.
really confronting that. I think it's hard to confront because like everyone knows that it's all kind of illusion, it's not really real, and it's an experiment, right? Effectively, modern consumerism, consumer capitalism, all this stuff is just an experiment. But there's consequences, right, on either end. I don't know if they had a hypothesis for this experiment. It seemed to grow somewhat naturally, but I can look at the consequences as I see them now. There are more people who are unhealthy, who are unfulfilled, who are depressed, who are sick, who are fucked up. And that is something we're going to have to all contend with
Mm,
in the near future.
yeah,
Because while people may be concerned of their day to day, I still look way into the future.
yeah,
And what I see does not make me very happy, right?
yeah.
It only brings like more concern and anxiety
Mm,
as to what the world will look like in 10 years' time.
yeah, it's tough. I feel like everybody feels that way at this point. Like, there's very few people that like, the most unaware people still are like, things aren't looking too good.
Yeah,
Everybody's a bit
yeah.
slightly on edge about these things,
Uh-huh.
and yeah, like that's a good point to bring up because I've been talking a lot about kind of like a psychological slash spiritual side of things, but the actual power structures that exist in life are a significant factor to your ability to live a fulfilling life,
Correct.
right? So this is an important thing. But with that being said, that's why it is important to have this spiritual aspect, or at least do some, you know, psychological introspection on yourself. The reason why that's important is because all you can do is all you can do. So from your current
Mhm.
position, what can you do that is more fulfilling, that is more in tune with your true self? Considering that maybe there's power structures stacked against you. You can't ignore it. You can't ignore that, just like you can't ignore death, just like you can't ignore risk. So like getting over your fear doesn't mean being stupid and taking foolish risk. You should still be aware and, like you said, calculated and make smart decisions. So that's just to give a more balanced perspective on
I
that.
think the hard part is finding it for yourself because we can't tell you what will make you more fulfilled in life because
Yes, that's
we
so
are
true.
you and I are entirely different people.
Yeah.
Are entirely own individuals. And while a lot of people just seem to be reacting to their environment, to society, and taking cues from other people, I do think a lot of people should spend more time introspecting, reflecting, and figuring out what exactly makes them tick, what
Mm,
exactly makes them have a sense of unity with themselves and not betray themselves. Be very aware of how and when you betray yourself because it's that awareness, it's within that awareness that you could bring change and then
mm,
find the opposite, right? It's fulfillment and what you can do to individuate.
mm. Yeah, yeah, and I kind of think I kind of want to start to wrap up with that idea there because I love what you just said. Um, that's got to be one of the biggest things and the biggest roadblocks for people, anyone that has dreams, anyone that wants to live a more fulfilling life, anyone that wants to really make things happen. One of the biggest roadblocks is this tendency to outsource your life to other people. It's good to seek guidance from people that are knowledgeable about something that you're doing. It's good to seek help. This is very important to seek help. But you cannot outsource decisions about your life to other people completely. You can take what they know and consider it, but you have to make the decision. You cannot outsource your fulfillment to someone else. No one else is going to make it happen for you ever. If you want to be happy, be happy. No one's going to make you happy. No one's going to do it for you. So, yeah, that's like so key. And I feel like that kind of encapsulates, you know, everything.
Hey man, this is a good conversation.
Absolutely.
Yeah, to shout out our socials really quick. You can follow me on X at Zuri_ELL, Zuriel. Yep.
Yeah, you can follow me on everything at JT versus Zone, and that's versus as in the abbreviation VS. And then I have another Twitter account that is the Zone Complex.
All right, bro. Good conversation.
Yeah,
Looking forward to the next one.
absolutely.